You're listening to Wildlife Control Consultant, where we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest management. Hi, I'm Stephen Van Tassel, host of Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Welcome to the show. If you're wondering what we're all about, well, we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest control. If you're wondering what a vertebrate pest is, well, it's any animal with a spine. So it has a backbone, then we're interested in talking about it and helping people resolve conflicts with those animals. Our twist is a little bit different. We're getting into some technical information that is for typically people who are in the professional space or individuals who are wanting to take their wildlife control experience to another level. So we go through some of the research literature and try to abstract information and provide that to the public. So welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us. Yes, I'm still recovering from my travels. Went to a conference and then did some additional traveling after that, but it looks like my August is going to be a little bit easier. I am doing some research in the field, doing some pilot testing of a trap to see if it'll work on our Richardson ground squirrels here in Montana. So I'm which is it's nerve-wracking, but it's exciting at the same time. I'm hoping we're going to get a positive result out of this because I really want this trap to work. But nevertheless, you have to see what the data provides. If you wanted to reach out to me, provide comments, suggestions, perhaps thoughts for future shows, and maybe you even have some criticism, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Just having a little picture here of my website. You can visit my store. We have various items available for people who want to learn more about vertebrate pest management. I have a variety of books as well as some and a few products to help you identify wildlife damage issues, and also some training materials. And of course, I do some ghostwriting and also webinars for your company if you're looking to have some specialized training. I'm actually doing one this week for a company that wanted to have a deep dive into some of the biology of some commensal rodents. So to kind of give people the background of why they're using certain techniques to control different rodents. So I'm providing them some of that background on that. So definitely reach out to me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. All right, well, enough of that. Let's get on with this week's topic. It's going to be kind of a short one. I came across this particular website. It's from the Bioeconomy Science Institute, out of New Zealand, I believe, if I understood that correctly. I believe this is out of New Zealand, yes. New Zealanders have a lot of problems with predators because they didn't historically have mammals on the island. So the mammals have been introduced. And so things like rats and weasels, some people call them stoats, have caused significant harm to the native wildlife on the islands. And they have made it their mission to try to manage these invasive species and to try to ultimately eradicate them. It is a very aggressive program that they have. I think it's called the 2050 project, something like that. Maybe it's even shorter, 2040, maybe even sooner. But nevertheless, they have put enormous resources into this. And part of their work that they do is also trying to develop more humane traps. And now humane, we mean in the sense that not me personally, but what they would mean by is being sure that it's more target specific. How can we have trap designs that are going to target the animal we want, right? So we're causing less harm to non-target animals, but also to kill the animal in a more rapid fashion. So these aren't euthanasia devices, but if we can shorten the amount of time an animal is struggling for its life, then that is certainly going to be morally preferable than seeing how long we can make it suffer. And they have done some yeoman's work in this particular area. And I think there's a variety of traps here that a lot of people within North America aren't familiar with. So if you're in the field of wildlife control and you want to learn new things, you may go to a wildlife control type conference. Perhaps there's one in your state, or maybe one at a regional or national level. Or you reach out to your trap supply dealer, and sometimes if they come across a new piece of equipment, they will begin to sell it in the marketplace, and that's kind of how you get a hold of some of these new products. But a lot of the items out of New Zealand haven't really made their way in any substantive way here to the United States. And part of that, of course, is cost, right? Because whenever you're doing these additional things to traps, it increases the cost. And these are very niche products, very specific products. And people say, well, why would I want to spend the amount of money on this particular trap when I could just use this less expensive trap? So, and then, plus they may not be part of that. A cost, of course, is just the transport of it to the United States. So shipping costs is certainly going to be there as well. But I do think they're going to be, as more and more clients are becoming more restrictive in their requirements, as the animal rights protest industry continues to grow in the United States, I think we're going to be pushed to some of these other devices that maybe we need to use them in particular areas just to try to maintain trapping efficiency. And with the rise in the number of restrictions related to various rodenticides. And so we may be in this push-pull. You're going to have the anti-pesticide masses fighting against the animal rights masses. So what's going to be the neutral space that they're both going to kind of agree on, or where politicians are just going to say, well, we've got to have something and everyone's going to be unhappy? Don't know. These are political questions more than scientific questions. A lot of times people will try to couch these types of issues in terms of science. These are not scientific questions. These are political questions. And so it's a matter of perspective and what your biases are and what your foundation is. For myself, for example, I believe that there is a difference between humans and animals, and so you'll never hear me talk about the human animal. To me, it's like saying wicked good. It's an oxymoron, right? It's just nothing. Wicked and goodness don't go together any more than calling humans animals. Now, we may act like animals, we may be beneath ourselves, to be sure, but a human is different in a metaphysical sense than animals. So for me, the concerns about humaneness are on a different guideline than people who think that humans are just another animal, and who gave us the right to treat other animals differently than we treat our neighbor, for example. And so this is the philosophical, religious question that has to be answered. But nevertheless, more and more people are asking it, not always with great clarity or with forethought about some of the consequences of their beliefs, but nevertheless, it's coming. And so it's important for wildlife control operators, and even you, if you're not a wildlife control operator, if you're interested in hiring wildlife control operators or you're looking to work with one, what are the available tools that are out there, right? Because we sometimes think that certain tools are effective or humane, and they're ultimately not. Let me give an illustration. In all the research done on conibear traps, that's sort of like one of the traps you see here. Let's see if I blow that up a little bit. That's a conibear style trap. It has some different modifications to it, but it's a similar design. The trap that's used for raccoons, none of the raccoons captured in this particular trap died within the 3 minutes. So the standards for humane trapping out of Canada, for example, have usually the animal must be unconscious within they have like a 1 minute time limit, 2 minute, or a 3 minute time limit, depending on what classification they're using. And raccoons are just too powerful for the traps that are being used. So that obviously is an issue, and it's important to know that. So if we can find a trap that is going to be lethal for the raccoon, but make it unconscious. You say, why is unconsciousness the issue? Well, an animal that's unconscious is no longer feeling pain. So while it's not officially, quote unquote, dead, it is not feeling it's not suffering during the death process, right? So when you hear people say, well, the conibear trap's killing instantly, that is simply not true when it comes to raccoons, and I doubt it's true for most other animals. It may kill quickly, it may kill very rapidly, but in terms of this instantaneous, that's sort of a little bit of spin that sometimes trappers mistakenly use. But nevertheless, New Zealand has really done some work here in terms of some of these traps. So you may recognize a few of these traps as because they occur in the United States. This conibear style trap here certainly is in the United States, as well as the tube trap here, or the tunnel trap that's produced, sold here in the United States. But some of these other traps you may not be familiar with, and so this is something for you to be checking out. And so let's kind of look at a few of them and see what's being said. So here are the traps we tested. We already looked at the conibear. Here we have the rat trap, and you'll see that little plastic case around it. That's to direct the target animal to come into the best kill zone side, so it has a good hit on the animal. Okay, that's what that design is for. And then of course here we have another kill trap. This is often used for like cats or brush-tailed possums, I believe, and again has a big striker bar. And again, the idea of a ramp forces that animal to line up properly to be within the kill zone. It also eliminates other animals that won't climb like this. The next one we're looking at here, there's another diversion. You can see it's kind of a choker style trap, but notice the size of those springs, right? So this is going to be quite a powerful trap. And here we have some the trap mechanism with a cover over it, again, to direct the animal to approach it at a particular angle. Here we have another conibear trap with a particular type of structure here, again with the ramp, of course. Sometimes they're modifying an established trap. Sometimes they are simply making the set rather specific. The set is the whole constellation of placement to direct the animal to come in a certain way. Here we have a kill trap. This looks like it's for mink or perhaps weasels. And then, of course, we have, this is the Trapper T-Rex trap, which is, of course, produced here, I believe, and sold here in the United States. I don't know where it's manufactured. It could be China, for all I know. And of course, we already talked about the tunnel trap. And here we have some conibear traps placed inside of this box covering area. Again, ways to try to prevent non-targets from entering, but also to ensure that animals that are approaching the trap from a proper direction, so that you're reducing the risk of what we call bad hits, right? So an animal that gets struck across the abdomen is going to have a slower death than one caught across the throat or across the thorax or the chest area. Another example of a trap there. And then, of course, here we have some conibear traps. Notice the design here. It forces the animal to climb into the trap. So this is a way to prevent maybe a non-target animal like a skunk. Skunks aren't great climbers as a general rule. I'm referring to striped skunks here. So this would be a trap that could be used for like raccoons. They're easy climbers, and so they would climb up here and get inside and then get captured by the conibear trap, and it would reduce the risk to other non-target animals. It's not perfect, right? I'm sure you can think of other animals that climb that could get caught up in this. Always remember you need to follow whatever, before you purchase and use one of these traps, that you're following state laws and provincial laws in your particular area. Some of these traps may not be legal within your particular state or locale. Sometimes communities ban lethal traps. Here's another example. Again, you have the trap, but you also have the set. Notice that little square hole there, allowed to probably for weasel. Again, you see the egg, and he comes across. Notice he'll have this huge pan to get caught on with 2 striker bars, so it's likely he's going to be pancaked underneath that device and die really quickly. Another example, so you notice you have all these different variations on sort of similar themes. This one, again, it forces the animal, he sticks his head in, and then when the trap comes up, it forces their neck into this narrower area and helps choke them out faster. Again, another example of that. Here you have some climbing capability. And another example, again, weasels, or what they call stoats, are a common problem within New Zealand. And then we're back to our conibear trap. So I hope you found that to be kind of interesting. So you say, all right, Stephen, we've seen all these types of traps. Now what? What do we do with this information? Well, they have done research on these particular traps, and they provided some of the findings here. Now, some of these animals we don't have in the United States per se, but it will tell you whether it passed their guidelines, their protocol, right? And that can be useful. You can say, well, how will this work for a similar species in the United States? And so feral cats are a huge problem within New Zealand. They're a huge problem here in the United States as well, but unfortunately we don't care as much about our wildlife as the New Zealanders do. But nevertheless, here they have examples of traps that pass that particular test. Let me blow this up a little bit more so you can read it better. And it shows the Belize Super X wooden tunnel. Again, it has to be the trap and the box system for it to pass this particular test. But notice the BMI, which is another type of conibear trap in a wooden tunnel, failed this particular test. And so set and forget failed, but then the Steve Allen trap set on top of a leaning board. Again, these are very specific. The Tim's trap passed, the Twizzle cat trap set passed, the SA2 cat trap set on top of a leaning board passed as well. And so this can be helpful for you to think, well, maybe I want to check one of these traps out if you're in a state that allows some of these types of body gripping traps. Here we have ferrets. Again, we really don't trap a lot of ferrets here in the United States. Ferrets not really an issue. But in terms of mink, this could be an issue, right? So if you're looking for kill traps, notice they have a number of them here that pass and fail. Hedgehogs, we don't have really hedgehogs here natively within the United States, but maybe a similar animal with similar behavior. You'll notice that these 4 types of traps all passed that particular test. Norway rats, believe it or not, there is a growing concern about how are we treating our rat friends or rat pests with appropriate respect, and having traps that would kill them in a more humane manner. And notice all of these particular traps passed that particular test for the Norway rat, of which we do have an abundance here in the United States. Now, understand the possums in New Zealand are different than the possums that we have here in the United States. So they have the brush-tailed possum in New Zealand. We have the Virginia possum here in the United States. So just be sure that when you see possum, don't say, oh, I want to use this on a possum. Do a little bit more work in this particular area because they're 2 different species. But nevertheless, these particular traps failed and some passed when dealing with the brush-tailed possum out of New Zealand. Ship rat, that is just the black rat, or what we call the roof rat. That is certainly all 4 of those particular. Those of you in like California, along the Gulf Coast, that have trouble with roof rats, these are some traps and trap sets that you may be interested in exploring so that you can be sure to better kills. And that may be a marketing tool for you to say, hey, we're using traps that have passed different humane standards so that they put the animals out of their misery faster. And you may have clients that are interested in that sort of thing. Stoats, again, we call them weasels here in the United States, but stoats, and you can see some of the traps passed, some of the traps failed in terms of their effectiveness. Now understand, when they use the word fail, they don't mean it didn't capture the animal or it didn't kill the animal ultimately. What they're saying is it didn't kill it within certain parameter, or put it unconscious, I should say, within certain parameters of time, because that's they're trying to be sure that they're improving humane standards with the trapping equipment. So don't read the failures. Oh, it won't catch the animal. That's not what they're saying. They're referring there to the humaneness of the device in terms of how quickly it puts the animal out of its misery. Well, I hope you want to check that site out. Let me give you the URL to it. It's called landcareresearch.co.nz. Discover our research managing invasive species, and I'll put the URL in the description there for you. But nevertheless, if you go to the Bioeconomy Science Institutes, I do a search on that and just go traps tested by target species, you can see this, and perhaps it's something you may want to look into purchasing, or maybe you want to become maybe a distributor here in the United States. We could, but check some things out, and it may give you some insight in terms of how you would modify traps that we do use in the United States, in terms of making sure that the animals are approaching those traps in a more standardized way, so that we can improve how quickly they put the animals out of their misery. All right. Well, it's not your normal type of presentation, but death is part of what we work with when we're dealing with vertebrate pest control. So I'm not gonna ignore that particular topic just because it may be uncomfortable for some people. Nevertheless, treat the animals with respect. Think about how you can improve your trade. This particular website can give you ideas based on empirical research on how they would do that. So check it out. I think it's worthwhile just to expose yourself to it like you have here today. Well, that's it for me this week. Again, I'm Stephen Van Tassel. I'm the owner of Wildlife Control Consultant. If you have research needs, ghostwriting needs, perhaps you would like me to work on some of your PowerPoints, perhaps, or provide a training for you, perhaps speak at a particular training event for you, do reach out to me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. And of course, if you have questions, comments, yes, even criticisms of the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach me again at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. And lastly, if you would like to be on the broadcast, please take a look at the video I have on how to be a guest on the show and see if it's something suitable for you. And then if you're still interested, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me again at that email I've already provided. Well, that's it for this week. Hope everything's going well for you. Enjoy the summer while it's still around. Until next time, take care, everyone. This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Vertebrate pest control is an inherently dangerous activity involving risk of bodily injury to you, others, and or property. Vertebrate pest control also involves legal issues, so be sure to always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and or other control methods when controlling pests. Wildlife Control Consultant LLC, Stephen M. Van Tassel, or their affiliates are not responsible for your use of the information provided here. Always consult a qualified and appropriate professional before employing the information provided here.